Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DFO Fantasy Podcast Morning Report presented by Betway. If you're going to place a bet on Betway. Please play responsibly. Ontario only. Must be 19 years of age or older. So, the Morning Report, new. Let's do it. We're going to recap last night's action. We're going to preview tonight's action. Talk about everything that's going to keep you up to date in fantasy hockey. Make sure you're making waiver wire pickups and all of that, making good trades, buy low, sell high candidates. So let's jump right in, recap last night's games, and we'll start with the Philadelphia Flyers, who won on home ice as plus 110 underdogs. They won 2-0. Couturier was a game time decision. He ended up playing. He scored a goal on 4 shots in 22 minutes and 23 seconds of ice time. He's now registered 1 goal, 1 assist, 7 shots, and is averaging an insane 21 minutes of ice time after missing all of last season. Couturier was a favorite late-round target of mine during the draft process, and he's still just 13% owned. So if you need help at center, he can provide value on a nightly basis given that insane usage right now. Carter Hart stopped 25 of 25 shots for his first shutout of the season. He's now 2-1 with a .235 goals against average and a .921 save percentage on the season. Dr. Demko was great in a losing effort. He stopped 40 of 42. For his first loss of the season. He's now 1-1 with a .170 goals against average and a .953 save percentage. From the Canucks side, despite being shut out, one notable performance was from Quinn Hughes, who had 4 shots on goal. He now has 8 shots through 3 games, definitely shooting the puck more than ever. On the broadcast the other night, they were talking about how they want him shooting a little bit more, and his lack of shot volume really was his only knock as a fantasy defenseman. So if he can add 200-plus shots, which he's obviously on pace for right now, and double-digit goals, I think he could end up being a steal from the draft process this year. So good to see Quinn Hughes shooting the puck a lot more, and if you ended up investing in him on draft day, could be some nice returns there. The Minnesota Wild were minus 140 road favorites in Montreal last night. They won 5-2. No Boldy, no problem, as the Minnesota Wild scored 3 power play goals and 2 shorthanded goals in a 5-2 win. Kirill Kaprizov had a power play goal and 2 power play assists to go along with 6 shots on goal. Joel Eriksson Ek, 2 power play goals, 4 shots on goal, and 3 hits. Matt Zuccarello, 3 power play assists and 4 shots on goal, led the way for the Minnesota Wild. From a deep waiver wire perspective, Marco Rossi, 2% remains someone to keep an eye on in those deeper keeper and dynasty formats. He looked pretty good again last night. 2 shots on goal in 13 minutes and 56 seconds of ice time. He now has 1 goal and 9 shots in 12.56 per game in 3 games so far this season. So the shot volume is certainly encouraging early on, and obviously if he gets a boost in ice time, that will go a long way as well. For the Canadians, Cole Caulfield had the only real notable performance. He had 1 assist, 5 shots on goal, and 3 hits. Now opened this season on a 3-game point streak, picking up 2 goals and 1 assist over those 3 games. The Islanders hosted the Arizona Coyotes and were minus 210 home favorites, and they absolutely suffocated the Coyotes, holding them to just 14 shots on goal. So it was an easy night for Ilya Sorokin, who recorded his first shutout of the season. He is 2-0 with a 1.00 goals against average, .952 save percentage to start the season. Matt Barzal scored the lone goal for the Islanders, and he has 7 shots in 2 games so far. His increased shot volume continues moving forward. This could be a career year for Matt Barzal. He's never had more than 279 shots. His early pace, and I stress this, early pace, is 287. But nonetheless, I don't necessarily expect a full 100 shot improvement from his previous career high, but the early shot volume is definitely encouraging, and he's still available in 36% of leagues and has center right wing eligibility. So it might be worth a look, Matt Barzal, especially if he can continue that shot volume that we've seen early on. The Buffalo Sabres were minus 140 home favorites against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they held on to a 3-2 overtime win. Jeff Skinner had 1 goal, 5 shots. Dylan Cousins was the OT hero. Devin Levi looked solid as well, stopping 21 of 23 shots for his first win of the season. He now has a 3.00 goals against average and 890 save percentage through 3 games. On the injury front, Matthias Samuelsson left the game with an upper body injury and did not return. For the Lightning, Steven Stamkos missed a 2nd straight game. He remains day-to-day with a lower body injury. But Brandon Hagel stepped up on that top line, scored both goals with 3 shots and 3 hits for the Lightning on that top line. Life without Andrei Vasilevsky has been tough for the Tampa Bay Lightning so far. The Lightning goalies, Jonas Johansson and Matt Tompkins, have combined for an 880 save percentage through 3 games. So will the Lightning address it? Remains to be seen, but it's been tough sledding so far. The Nashville Predators were plus 110 home favorites, or underdogs, against the Edmonton Oilers, and were smashed. The Oilers won 6-1. I said this would be a get-right spot for the Oilers on my DFS show yesterday, and boy, was it ever. Leon Draisaitl's dominance over the Nashville Predators continued. He had 2 goals, 2 assists, and 5 shots on goal. Listen to this. He now has 18 goals, 12 assists, 30 points in his last 10 games versus the Nashville Predators. Unbelievable stuff. But it wasn't just Draisaitl who had a big night. Zach Hyman, 1 goal, 3 assists. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 1 goal, 2 assists. Connor McDavid, 1 goal, 1 assist. Warren Foegele, who was bumped up into the top 6 to play with Nugent-Hopkins and Hyman yesterday, had 1 goal, 1 assist. And Evan Bouchard picked up 2 assists on the back end. After being pulled in his season debut, Jack Campbell got the nod last night and was outstanding. Despite the lopsided score, the Predators actually carried much of the play. They had 43 shots on net. Campbell stopped 42 of them, giving him a .977 save percentage. Speaking of the goaltenders, UC Saros was pulled after the first period. He gave up 4 goals on 11 shots, .636 save percentage. Not great, but you probably should have left him on your bench yesterday anyway, just given how good the Oilers have been against the Predators in recent years. Tommy Novak was the lone Nashville goal scorer. He also added 6 shots. He's got 2 goals and 11 shots through 4 games. At 5% owned, he's a guy that I liked in the preseason process. But right now, I'd probably leave him on the wire. Keep an eye on him, though, because it's going to be tough to roster him, full-time while he's playing just 14 minutes a night. So if the usage starts to increase, which he played like 18 minutes last night, so if that's a sign of things to come, definitely worth a roster spot in deeper formats. But right now, 14 minutes just isn't going to get it done. The Winnipeg Jets were minus 140 home favorites against the Kings and were shellacked 5-1. Pierre-Luc Dubois opened the scoring in his return to Winnipeg, but after that, it was all LAK3. Their third line was great. Trevor Moore, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 shots. Phil Deneau, 1 goal, 2 assists, 2 shots. Arthur Kaliev, 1 goal, 1 assist, and 2 shots in his season debut after serving his 2-game suspension to start the year. After a disappointing start to the year for Cam Talbot, he stopped 26 of 27 shots for a .963 save percentage last night. Speaking of Kaliev, I do think he's definitely worth a look in deeper leagues. He's an absolutely great goal scorer that should be able to carve out a larger role with Victor Arvidsson out long-term. Only played like 12 minutes last night, but I do expect that to go up as he gets back into the lineup and back into the swing of things for the Kings. It was a tough night, obviously, for the Jets, but Mark Scheifele scored again. He's got 1 goal in each of his first 3 games of the season. Nice resurgence for him. I absolutely love that top line. Gabe Vilardi was one of my favorite waiver wire pickups. But unfortunately, he left the game yesterday with in the first period and did not return. He suffered a lower body injury on a hit from Blake Lizotte and was ruled out almost immediately, which is a little bit concerning. I'm imagining they evaluated him and were like, oh boy, and ruled him out right away. So I'd expect an update in the coming days, but obviously not great. Wouldn't be picking him up off the wire if he's out long term, but yeah, we'll see kind of how things shake up. Could be good news for Nick Ehlers if he ends up moving to that top line, because Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor have looked outstanding to start the season. The Seattle Kraken were plus 125 home underdogs against the Colorado Avalanche and lost 4-1. Arturi Lehkonen finally broke through with a goal on Tuesday. He added another 3 shots on goal to give him 14 shots, which is tied for 11th through 3 games. He's also 16th in the NHL in individual expected goals at all situations. Just 35% owned. He's an absolute must-add right now, skating on that second line in Colorado. Also on the top power play unit. So if he continues this shot volume, he needs to be rostered in all formats. He's been off to a great start. So make sure you get Arturi Lehkonen in onto your teams. Again, available in 65% of leagues right now. Valery Nichushkin also picked up his first of the season, and Rantanen scored another goal, giving him 3 goals, 2 assists in 3 games. He is well on his way to another 100-point season. Alexander Georgiev was outstanding again, stopped 37 of 38 shots. He is now 3-0 with a 1.3 goals against average and a sparkling .958 save percentage to start the year. Seattle remains winless on the season, 0-3-1, and their offense just cannot score. They were an obvious regression candidate for me in the preseason, and regression is hitting hard, to say the least, to start the season. They are last currently in the NHL in goals for per 60, just 0.73 goals for per 60 at the moment, thanks to being last in the NHL in shooting percentage, shooting just 2.4%. So while they were an obvious regression candidate, they're not going to continue to shoot just 2.4%. They will have better days ahead. As I mentioned, they still got 37 shots last night, but it's just tough. They do kind of lack these elite goal scorers. Everybody kind of had a career year at the same time for them last year. The stars kind of aligned, and It's just not going to happen again this year. So unfortunately for them, tough start to the season. And then the final game of the night, the San Jose Sharks were plus 225 home underdogs against the Carolina Hurricanes. And the Sharks looked feisty again. They took a 3-2 lead into the second intermission, but Carolina ultimately exploded for 4 goals in the third period. They were 3 for 7 on the power play on the night. And they did it all without Sebastian Aho, who was scratched before the game due to a lower body injury. But the Carolina top six still dominated. 6 players: Seth Jarvis, Brady Shea, Martin Necas, Stefan Neshin, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and Michael Bunting all had multi-point efforts in this game. Seth Jarvis is an excellent waiver wire addition. He is available in 60% of Yahoo leagues if he's still floating around in your league. 2 goals, 1 assist, and 11 shots through 4 games. But the most important part is that he's averaging 20 minutes a night, which is a massive jump from the 16 minutes and 12 seconds we saw from him last year. We could see a huge breakout from Jarvis this season if this usage continues. Remains to be seen how all the minutes will be handed out once Andrei Svechnikov is back in the lineup. But I would imagine, regardless, we're going to see a lot more minutes than the 16-12 we saw from Jarvis last year. So even if it's not 20, if it's 19, it's 18 and a half, still a big jump. I expect big things from Drew, so make sure you're adding him. Again, just 40% owned at the moment. And it's probably not sustainable, but Brady Shea now has points in all 4 games to start the season. 1 goal, 5 assists. To me, he's a sell-high candidate right now because he does not see any power play time, and he's certainly not going to maintain his 20.5% on ice shooting percentage. So depending on your format, he literally might be ranked as the number 1 fantasy defenseman right now. I'd be trying to leverage that into a trade if possible. And I lied. That was not the last game of the night. We also had Vegas and Dallas. Vegas was minus 110 against the Stars on home ice, and they held on to a 3-2 shootout win despite being without Alex Pietrangelo, Alec Martinez, and Zach Whitecloud. This is a very good Stars team. That's a very good win with those injuries for the Vegas Golden Knights. The big guns didn't really do a whole lot for the Golden Knights, but Jack Eichel had 8 shots on goal. He now leads the NHL with 25 shots in 4 games. This type of volume is what we saw from his early days in Buffalo, where he was going over 300 shots a season, and it's going to lead to huge goal-scoring numbers for Jack Eichel this season. If you can buy low, he's had a nice start. I think he's got 4 points in 4 games, but if you can buy low, still before his owners notice exactly kind of like what's going on with Jack Eichel and just how good the production could be at this shot volume, I would be trying to swing a trade for Eichel and see if you can get him at a lower price, because in a couple weeks' time, that price is probably going to have skyrocketed. Both goalies, very good goalies at that, played very well. Jake Onger stopped 32 of 34 in the loss. He has a 138 goals against average and a 948 save percentage so far this season. And Aiden Hill stopped 24 of 25 shots, now has a 131 goals against average and a 951 save percentage to start the year, as he tries to prove that last year was not a fluke, and he has done a very good job of that early in the season. Now, let's get to tonight's games, just 2 games on the NHL slate. It will start with the Ottawa Senators as minus 165 home favorites against the Washington Capitals. The Ottawa offense has been humming to start the season. They are averaging 4.3 goals for per game, and they may get a boost on Wednesday with Josh Norris potentially returning to the lineup. Missed the first few games, but he skated on the third line and the top power play unit in Tuesday's practice. They did not confirm that he would be in. They're going to see how he feels today, see how he feels this morning. I would imagine he's trending towards being a game time decision, but all signs are pointing towards a Josh Norris season debut for the Senators tonight, which is not good news for the Washington Capitals. It's only been 2 games for the Capitals, but they've been absolutely caved in at 5v5 early on, which isn't that surprising. They've never been a very good 5v5 team. They've always relied heavily on the special teams, and it looks like they're going to have to again this year. They're currently last in the NHL in 5v5 expected goals for per 60 and 4th worst in expected goals against per 60. So just getting caved in at 5v5, and Ottawa should definitely carry the 5v5 play in this game. Washington, as I mentioned, will need to rely on that special teams to win the battle tonight and win the game. Anton Forsberg, if he ends up getting the start, would be a great stream on Wednesday. I would imagine he's probably the only one that you can really even look at. I think he's 6% owned. If he gets a start, I absolutely love him. The Penguins, who we'll talk about their game next, they're in Detroit. I guess they could maybe go to Alex Nedeljkovic and against his former team. I just don't know if that's actually going to end up being the case. So I think it's going to be Yari for the Penguins. The Red Wings have already confirmed Ville Husso. So Anton Forsberg, likely the only streaming option tonight. And he looks like a good one. Looked really good in his season debut, and obviously a pretty good matchup against the Capitals this evening. And then, as I mentioned, the Red Wings are plus 110 home underdogs against the Pittsburgh Penguins this evening. To me, the Red Wings still aren't getting any respect, despite playing extremely well through 3 games. The Penguins themselves had a slow start to the season, but have dominated their last 2 games against Washington and Calgary, outscoring them 9-2. I don't really like a bet too much in either one of these games tonight. But if I had to, in a vacuum, I lean Ottawa minus 165 on home ice. I just don't think that the Capitals are very good, and I think this Ottawa team is quite good. And if they get Norris back, it'll be a huge boost. And then I lean Detroit plus 110 on home ice as well. Both kind of tough numbers to get to at the moment, but I think this Detroit team is quite good. And at plus 110 on home ice, I think is worth a shot. So anyways, that's going to do it for today's DFO Fantasy Morning Report presented to you by Betway. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow.